What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. We got ourselves a gigantic week in the Bungie community, in the Bungie world. We got ourselves the closed alpha for Marathon coming out, and your boy did catch one of those alpha codes, so we are going to be streaming it as well as having some videos hopefully be able to be created for it. Not sure the viability yet on all of that, and I don't want to like push my luck, obviously, even though the NDA did get lifted and we're going to be able to create all that content for y'all. But just want to throw it out there that it is going to be a pretty hype week. I know this is coming out on the day that Marathon drops, the 23rd, which I do believe is Wednesday, hopefully, if I'm not misspeaking. That would be awkward if I just said that it's editing coming out right now and we're you know what I'm saying. I don't know, my ADHD is all over the place, but we're gonna get into this video with a Striker Titan subclass using the Barrow-Dyad, sitting us right behind those barricades, being able to do a good amount of damage on those targets. Endgame activities become easy with this build. Definitely my favorite arc verb to come out with the subclasses. Jolting is a close second, but these bolt charges and the combination of this is absolutely disgusting. So right here, before we get into everything else, we got ourselves the Cuirass of the Falling Star, our exotic chess piece, and Glorious Charge as its perk. Increase the damage of Thundercrash and grant us damage resistance after impact. Melee final blows while amplified create us that super energy, so pairs very well with how we have it built out in Knockout as well as that Thunderclap melee. Alright, so for our Striker subclass that we're going to be using with the Cuirass of the Falling Star, we're going to have ourselves T-Crash, of course, for that extra juicy bit of damage. Plus, when we got Bolt Charge stacked out, going to be able to do even a little bit extra damage with that. For us, we're going to be using that Rally Barricade so we can sit behind it with our Barrow-Dyad, like I said, and absolutely juice the damage. We're going to have ourselves Strafe Lift. You could go really with anyone that you want. I got my Thunderclap on with Pulse Grenades, so we're going to create a good little feedback loop between both of these. And then Storm's Keep, really important for this, so when we are behind that barricade, it's going to give us some bolt charges and it's going to stack up over time. Plus, our weapons are going to be able to discharge the bolt charge instead of normally you have to use one of your abilities. That's one of the reasons why when you do use it with Thundercrash, we're going to get some extra damage with it. But usually, like I said, it's got to be one of your abilities to be able to proc that. But with Storm's Keep, our weapons also discharge bolt charge. Now we're going to be using Knockout as well. Again, you could really throw on Touch of Thunder if you want. So your Pulse Grenade is going to give you Ionic Traces, which is going to help you to give back your Rally Barricade. But I really like having that Knockout so we can get health on defeats when we're using our Thunderclap. Just a nice little feedback loop that we got between our aspects and abilities. As for our Fragments, pretty much a staple for Arc. Nothing really crazy in our Arc whatever these are called, fragments that we got. Spark of Resistance, Spark of Recharge, Spark of Feedback, and Spark of Shock. Spark of Shock right here, our grenade is going to jolt targets, very good for ad clear, as well as adding a little bit of damage output for this build. Spark of Feedback, taking melee damage, increases our outgoing melee damage, so plays right back into Thunderclap as well as Knockout. Plus, if we do got bolt charges, Storm Keep gonna allow us to proc that pretty consistently. Recharge right here going to be able to give us our melee and grenade back a little bit faster when we're critically wounded, and in that end game GM content, master raids, whatever, doing a lot is going to actually cause you to become one shot very quickly. So recharge gets procced very fast, and then resistance, while we're surrounded, we are more resistant to incoming damage. Again, kind of playing back into Thunderclap as well as Knockout, being up close and personal, and then we're going to get feedback to proc. So little beautiful feedback loop of this Arc subclass. Definitely 90% of builds, I would say, has some variation of these three on it, with the fourth one being however you like to play. All right, now when we move on to the weapons that we're going to be using on this here build, like I said, we're going to be using Barrow-Dyad. I got Hatchling on mine, but if you're looking for a little bit more damage, you could probably throw on that Target Lock perk, but this thing is going to be used for a good chunk of damage, hiding behind that barricade with Bolt Charge, and then how it stacks up with the Seekers that it has on it. Plus, when we pick up our Orbs of Power, we're going to have Anti-Barrier because this thing is going to have Unraveling rounds as well. Now, we're going to be using the Carayunios. I don't know how to say that, but we got Overflow Detonator Beam, a very nice little combination because this is going to help us with Overload Champions, plus pairs very well with the arc synergy of this build. And what you will see after I cover the armor, what we got going on our Tablet of Ruin. With last but not least, we got the Scintillization. I don't know if that is said right either. You can ream me out in the comments, but we got ourselves a Rewind Bait and Switch. Super good at juice and damage with this build. It's going to be able to get Unraveling rounds helping with damage, plus it is going to be our unstoppable weapon as well. So beautiful little synergy out of all of this, and we're going to be using this the most in my personal opinion, just because of the way that we can sit behind a target, or I should say we sit behind our barricade, get that Bolt Charge, get the Seekers to proc with this thing, and then just juice targets. Now, when we move on to our mod customization that we got on this bad boy right here, we're going to be using, of course, a nice double 100 build with resilience as well as discipline. Discipline was so we could get back our grenade pretty quickly, so we can have that jolting aspect. Recovery is at 70, but with how we have this built out and our mods with Font of Restoration, when we have that armor charge, it's going to give us plus 30 to resilience, or I should say plus 30 to recovery. So we're basically having triple 100s with resilience, recovery, and discipline. On top of that, we're going to be using powerful attraction on this bad boy, so when we do throw down our barricade, it is going to be able to collect all those orbs of power that are nearby to us, helping us to proc Font of Restoration. Plus, it's going to help us to proc all of these with Absolution, giving us all our abilities back, our Orbs of Restoration giving back our least energied ability, as well as Recuperation, giving us a little bit of health back every single time we pick up those Orbs of Power. We're going to create Orbs of Power with Harmonic Siphon as well as the Strands, so our Strand weapons as well as our Arc weapons both, so all of our weapons that we're going to be using are going to help us to create Orbs of Power. We're going to have heavy ammo finder, so all those defeats that we get on enemies are going to have us a chance to create heavy ammo for our linear fusion, which, like I said, very good at juicing DPS, plus our unstoppable. And then last but not least, I guess we are going to cover this real quick, but void resistance, I went triple because Sunless Cell, lots of void damage going on, and that's what I think was the 25% damage increase, but totally up to you in the content you're going into. If it's solar damage increase, I would go with like solar. If it's arc, you could go with arc, but for the Sunless, I went with the triple void. Then on our feedback loop side of things, we're going to have impact momentum transfer, so causing damage with our grenade, going to give us our melee, vice versa, causing damage with our melee, going to give us our grenade, and then we are going to get our class ability back as well when we do damage with our grenade, hence why we have 100 resilience, or I should say 100 discipline. Sorry, I'm all over the place right now, but bolstering, detonation, impact, and momentum, helping us with the positive internal feedback loop that we got on this build, as well as all these that we got on our baits. Last but not least, on our Tablet of Ruin right here, we got ourselves that Overload Trace Rifle with Unstoppable Fusion that we are going to be using, Unraveling Orbs, so when we pick up those Tankles or Orbs of Power, our Strand weapons are going to get Unraveling Orbs, so our Barrow-Dyad is going to be able to stun those barrier champions for us. We're going to got Beam Medic, so rapidly defeating the targets with our Trace Rifle, going to heal us and our nearby allies. Very, very nice little combination on this build, as well as a Vile Weave, so targets hit by Tankles are severed, reduce Tankle cooldown by picking them up. This will play very heavily into the Strand synergy that we got with this and the Unraveling rounds. On top of that, we're going to have Photonic Flare, so exhausted or severed targets when we do damage with arc, whatever it may be, grenade, melee, super, as well as our Trace Rifle, that's going to be able to help us to create a blinding explosion because those severed targets that we're getting from our Tangles down there. Dielectric, defeating arc debuff targets, grants us bolt charges. We're going to have a lot of jolt going on with this build, so stacking up those bolt charges even more. And flashover, definitely important for if you are using bolt charges, because this is going to help us to become amplified, plus those lightning bolts deal more damage. So when we're using our Barrow-Dyad, like I said, sitting behind our barricades, stacking up those charges, just shooting them out, we're going to be able to get even more damage with that bad boy. Harsh Refraction, definitely very good, because with all the jolt that we're going to be having, that trace rifle is going to do targets affected by elemental debuffs that match its energy. So jolting targets and then doing damage with the trace rifle that we got, going to do more damage than just normally would. So very good combination there. 2 shreds, so dealing sustained damage to severed targets unravels them. Defeating a severed target creates a hot spot of strand energy, which gives us woven mail. So even though we're using an arc subclass, we're going to get woven mail on it too. That's going to help us to stay alive, because woven mail gives us like some damage resistance aspects, and then these kind of just play right back into a vile weave as well as unraveling orbs. It's a nice little synergy between those 3 and the Barrow-Dyad. Last but not least, which is going to help us to do even more damage on enemies by weakening them with doing sustained damage with that linear fusion that we got on. It alone is very good with its bait and switch combination and rewind rounds, but it's also going to do a nice little bonus damage for them. I guess it doesn't weaken the targets, it just gives us bonus damage on targets. So very lovely in my personal opinion. I do like the tablet that we got for arc and the strand synergy of this build. Definitely a good build to take into really any type of content. The Sunless Cell GM has a lot going on, so if you can get through this GM, you can get through really any type of content. Master raid stuff, you might gotta do a little bit of extra processing, just because mechanic wise that's where people lose their minds, not really staying alive, that sort of aspect. It's not being able to do mechanics, but that's a whole different realm of videos, if you will. But again, appreciate everybody for always coming back and checking out the channel. Means a lot to me, means a lot to the channel. Like I said, we got a big week this week with the Marathon Alpha coming out. We're going to be grinding that for y'all, showing you guys what it's all about, streaming, putting out videos. We got this video here, we had our Hunter video on Monday, and we got a Warlock video coming out this weekend. I'm going to try to put it out on Friday, so don't be afraid to like, subscribe, slap that bell so you don't miss out on any of the content that we do put out here, whether it be the streams, the builds that we're putting out, the guides that we're putting out, and the exciting new alpha content for Marathon, which hopefully has some really good potential for videos, because that sounds like a very good avenue to kind of rotate my content into. But again, appreciate all you guys. As always, y'all are dope, and I love you guys. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.